As the sun rises over the terracotta tiles of Londinium, the wind blows through cracks in the roof, rattling these tiles into a symphony, greeting the golden glow that warms the earth. As your husband gets out of bed, stretching as if to match the movement of the dancers carved into your bed frame, he leaves for the day. It's a busy day for him, and he says he will see you tonight. Kissing your forehead, he leaves. As you begin to stir from your warm bed, one of your servants begins to pour you a drink of warm water and a glass of wine, and another brings in your children. Oof! Your kids jump on the bed and climb on top of you, screaming in your ear that they get to go to the market today, and they want to become gladiators. Your name is Camilla Flavius. You're the wealthy wife of a Roman merchant, and you and your family live in the far-off province of Roman Britain. Currently you live in London, or known in Latin as Londinium, and the year is 410 AD in modern-day London. You live on Eastcheap Road, but in Roman Londinium, you're a few blocks away from the Hippocaust. As servants of your husband walk back and forth into your home, bringing amphoras of wine out of the storehouse and to the dockyards, exclaiming that some goods are going to begin being sold in Gaul and Hispania, your husband wants to expand his trade across the empire. As servants bring milk to your children, feeding them breakfast, or known as irontaculum, they serve generous amounts of fruit and bread, you taking some grapes and an apple for your breakfast. Praying to your Lord Jesus Christ, you break your fast and eat your irontaculum. News of barbarian invasions crossing the Rhine are whispered by servants in the halls. Talks of the mysterious Huns bring shudders to you. You exclaim, "Quit your talk of this nonsense, go back to work!" You can't explain it, but something terrifies you with news of these barbarians. Something is not right. Your children play gladiator outside, stabbing and slashing with wooden swords, proclaiming they are the great Britannia soldier and defeat the Gaul, the current gladiator champion living in the city. Walking around the city with your servants, you need to gather some ingredients for your dinner. As you walk by, slow signs of the decay of the empire show. Some houses lie abandoned, their hosts long since left for the mainland. The city of Londinium now has a population of 35,000, but 2 centuries before was at a height of 65,000. Many buildings in and outside of the city lie in ruins and abandoned due to the declining population. Most of the structures and houses in the city are slowly crumbling, plaster peeling off houses, wooden beams rotting, and vines climbing up walls. Life as a woman in this period of Roman history was much more free and more equal than years past. In the early Roman Empire, there was little recourse for women who had abusive or cheating husbands, and unwanted children were often left near rubbish dumps to die. A woman could be killed for having an affair, whereas a man would receive no punishment. The patriarch of the family, or familia, would have considered the household subordinate under him, and had the right to kill whomever he wanted for the slightest transgressions. Women were treated as the property of a man, and their sole purpose was to bear children and tend to the home. Though standards for women did improve in the late Roman Empire following the introduction of Christianity, no longer would it be permissible for a Roman man to abandon their newborn in the trash, or force their wives or slaves to have an abortion. Christian women, having the same spiritual equality as men, had more say in domestic and political affairs, especially for those in higher classes. Women were protected under several Christian divorce laws, coercing many men to continue caring for their families, instead of abandoning them, though this was highly variable to each family. Your servants whisper to each other as your sandals clop on the stone streets of the city, and a wave of people pass by. My mother told me of the great barbarian conspiracy in 360. It nearly destroyed our province. Another whispers, our nation has been devastated by constant civil wars. When will this bloodshed end? A third says, my brother Victus has told me that the border garrisons are undermanned and were never paid. Again, You tell your servants to silence. Enough of your worries. This empire has lasted 1,000 years and faced many wars and challenges. Why would it fall now? You retort. They stop talking and follow you to the market, as laughing passerbyers smile and speak Celtic and Latin. During this time, much of Roman Britain was still Celtic, but slowly over the centuries, more had begun learning Latin, especially in urban areas. Buying some apples, it costs 15 denarii. You say that's mirum idi, quod annuante, septimo denari tantum. Beaming with joy, you run to the foreign merchant, a hearty and kind man from Carthage. He's willing to sell you some dates, but they are 40 denarii for a basketful, nearly twice what they were last summer. He says, I'm sorry, my friend, but...
O amice doleo sed hi numine significant multum simile utebantur.
Referring to the debasing of the coins of precious metals. In previous times, the Roman coins were nearly 80% silver or gold, but now only contain a quarter of these precious metals. As constant Roman, emperors sought to increase the money supply by devaluing their currency. This was further strained by the halt of an importage of coinage to Britain, as Roman rule slowly collapsed. Your friend Silicho, though, a wine merchant from Gaul, says he's willing to give you some fine wine from Hispania. But the pottery looks shoddy, and the wine is nearly triple its value, at 100 denarii. You ask why the amphora is cracked, brittle, and full of impurities. He says,
Hai Britanni non sunt quomodo testam amplius facere, sed hoc facet.
Giving him golden coins featuring the Emperor Honoruis. You pay for the wine. Shouting to your servants, let us go see a gladiator fight. Now run and bring the children. I'll meet you there. As you walk around Londinium, you can see people leaving their houses, but taking all their possessions and not even locking their doors. You know they're leaving. Broken roof tiles fall to the ground, but there's nobody is willing to pick them up. And grass has started growing in between the roads. But nobody minds. Something's not right. Though you don't know it, you're witnessing the slow decline of the empire. A process that's taken centuries to take an empire of iron to one of rust and decay. Walking towards the gladiator arena, the crowds jeer and drink wine, shouting, "Kill him!" Slit their throats, as the reigning champion known as the Gual walks into a thunderous applause. Though the arena is only half full, and the stands have begun rotting. As the gladiator fights a barbarian known as Viclan, a Pict. He slashes and stabs, swords ring out, and dust is kicked up. When the dust settles, Viclan is dead, and the Gaul raises his sword and proclaims his victory. As your children wave their wooden swords and ask to fight, but you have to tell them they aren't old enough, and are only 9 years old. Going back home, you want to start your dinner. Even better, throw a party that will surely take your mind off this barrage of terrible whispers and news. Bring out the wine, fetch our friends, and buy some cattle. Giving your servants a sack of coin, you tell them to prepare for a party. As they run off, as the day approaches noon, you take your children to the nearby church to pray. As a wooden cross sits on the altar, you pray to your Lord Jesus Christ that everything in the empire is okay, and that he will protect you and your family. Clinging the cross on your neck, you teach your children about how Jesus Christ, a revolutionary Jew sentenced to death by a Roman governor, came to save the world, and that there is no need to fear worshipping in secret. Those days ending nearly a century ago with Emperor Constantine. Your children run off and take their swords with them. I'm going to go fight the barbarians, they say, as they run to the ruins of a nearby villa. You're scared that what they say may come true in Hansamte. The future, remembering how Constantinus took the last remaining troops off the island to march on Rome. And there few people left to protect the island now. As they fight and play, they jump on top of a tile mosaic, a Roman eagle. Seeing the ruined house and tall grass growing through the mosaic, breaking apart the stones and muddling the image of the very symbol of Roman rule, you hurry back home. Nothing seems right, you think, but let's party. On the way back home, you pass the theatre and can hear a woman recite poetry. Thine, Roman, is the pilum. Roman, the sword is thine, the even trench, the bristling mound, the legion's ordered line, and thine the wheels of triumph, which with their laurelled train move slowly up the shouting streets to Jove's eternal flame. Reaching your home, a 2-story villa, with sun-red terracotta lining your roof and white-plastered walls greeting you, you'll begin preparing for your party. As the sun begins to set over the glistening roofs and river Thames, your party starts. For entertainment, you borrowed a friend's ostrich, and for fun, you and your dinner guests feed them grapes. Musicians from Greece play a harp, and local musicians play a flute, as you and your husband dance to the music. Servants bring out generous courses of stuffed dormice, pork, flamingo tongues, beef, lamb brain, dates, apples, large jugs of wine, and jars of garum, a delicious fish sauce, were given out. As your guests laugh and annoy the ostrich, you start to feel better. Your worries go away. As the day turns to night, the party gets heated as large braziers are lit to serve as light, and even more wine is given out. People begun becoming drunk. Your sons even start drinking wine, but you carefully watch how much they consume. As flies buzz around and people begin vomiting from drinking too much, a servant runs over to your house, sweaty and out of breath, explaining the city of Rome has been sacked by the Visigoths. Everybody is quiet. A woman in the party starts crying, and a sense of grief runs through the party. What does this mean for us? People ask. Is Londinium safe? How could this happen? Our emperor must be corrupt and incompetent. Somebody says, you go to bed that night, but you don't sleep. You can't explain why, but you fear for your children. What will their future be like? Will the empire protect Britain if it can't even save Rome? You don't know it, but this marked the beginning of the end. In only 100 years, the city of Rome would be sacked by barbarians, the western provinces would fall, and the emperor dethroned. In future times, the ruins of Bath, Colchester, London, and many other places would be claimed to be built by giants, the once grand builders of Roman Britain, their administrators, their emperors, and even Latin would be forgotten by many. By 550 AD, almost all urban areas in Britain would be abandoned. Latin would be forgotten by many as a conversational language. Coin-based currency disappeared. Anglo-Saxons and Jutes would conquer much of the land, and petty kingdoms carved up the island. Thank you for watching. I know I missed on a lot, but I hope this gives a rough picture of life in Rome and Britain.